is on.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Dr. Suarez. I am so happy to be here as part of this event hosted by School of Counseling and have this very unique opportunity to present on one of my favorite topics, which is CVs. And having a polished CV, it is an important step in managing your career, especially if you're thinking about becoming a counselor educator now or sometime in the future. So, before we dive into the program and talk about CVs, I'd like to first learn a little bit more about you, the audience. Where are you in the CV writing process? Uh, Go ahead and put in your responses in the chat. Maybe you're not sure what a CV is and would like to learn more. Or maybe you're in the process of creating your first CV, or maybe you already have a CV, but it really needs an update. So take a moment and type in the chat, and I see many responses coming in. All right, I have one created. I'm updating my CV. I'd like to learn more. Okay, creating my first CV, updating. Excellent. I have one, but haven't updated since my master's in 2011. So definitely need an update there, right? And be able to incorporate your more current experience and skills. And many of you are in the process. Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing this. And we really have some of you right at the beginning wanting to learn more. Some of you are creating your first CV, and others really, you need a update on your CV. But wherever you are in the process, today you'll gain many tips and strategies to help you take your CV writing to that next level. So let's start with our agenda and talk about what we're planning to cover here today. Today, you'll learn about the difference between a CV and a resume. Then we'll explore the CV resources that are available on the Career Planning and Development website so you can continue using those resources. We will discuss the main CV sections and formatting tips, and also share ways to strengthen and customize your document. We'll also be pausing periodically throughout the program for your questions. Excellent. Uh, so let's start with the basics and learn a little bit about the difference between a resume and a CV. Many students I work with will ask me what the difference is between the two documents. And there are many similarities, but there are a few very important differences that I'd like to mention here today. So, a resume is typically a 1 to 3 page document that showcases how you add value to employers through your skills and achievements. A resume is used when applying for most types of jobs within the United States. And I also want to add that for federal jobs, there's also like a very specific resume format for that as well. But an academic CV can be similar to a resume, but it places more emphasis on your academic work, on your professional development activities and contributions that you've made to your field. So it takes a more holistic view of who you are as a professional in your field. Therefore, it can typically be a longer document than a resume. It can be 5 to 8 pages, depending on your level of experience and professional accomplishments, such as professional presentations and publications. And a CV is also requested many times when you're applying for higher ed teaching positions, for some leadership roles, submitting conference proposals, or pursuing consulting work. All right. So next, I'd like to introduce you to some resources that are available on the Career Planning and Development website. And you can use these resources to continue working on your CV after today's session. Our CV tools can be found right on the Resumes and More tab. And also, there are CV samples that can be found in the Skills First Career Management System. So let's learn more about Skills First. All right. If you haven't heard of Skills First, what it is a powerful career management tool with over 600 sample resumes and CVs that is available to you as a Walden student. So this is something that you can use, and it includes custom CV and resume templates that were designed specifically for counseling students who are in the master's and in the PhD counselor education and supervision programs. So there are very specific templates that are a part of the system that were developed collaboratively between our team and the School of Counseling program through the years. Also, I do want to mention that Skills First includes additional modules to help you also build cover letters, career portfolios, and even practice your interview skills. And the resumes module in Skills First, this is where you would go to access CV templates and build your CV document. Skills First recently also added generative AI features. They are powered by ChatGPT, and many of you probably already heard of emerging generative AI that can help you match your CV that you create in Skills First to an actual job posting and much, much more. So there are all of these important tools in the system to take advantage of. And we also offer step-by-step guides to help you navigate the Skills First system. So a link to learn more about Skills First, to access the guides, and to also access the system itself is also provided here right on the slide for your convenience. And when you create a Skills First account, you want to be sure you use your Walden email and password to get started. The second important tool that I'd like to introduce to you is our comprehensive CV guide. We offer this step-by-step guide that has detailed information related to the key points that I plan to cover in today's session, along with links to several sample CVs. And I highly recommend referring to this guide after today's session to continue building or enhancing your CV documents. So now that you know a little about the CV resources that are available to you, let's start preparing to write a CV. All right, so before you start building or enhancing your CV, it's important to step back and reflect and take an inventory of your greatest skills and strengths. This will help you then update your or create your document. So here are a few examples related to counseling careers. For instance, think about the types of counseling specific skills that you've acquired through your academic program, through your field experience, or through your professional experience. Your doctoral coursework has also provided you with knowledge and tools in research. So that is an important skill. Reflect upon your qualitative and quantitative research skills. Communication. This is a vital skill to have in almost any professional environment. So what opportunities have you had to build and apply oral and written communication skills? And what leadership opportunities have you had? For example, did you lead a team or mentor or train others or organize community events or even teach a course for some of you? So I'd like to hear from all of you. And learn a little bit more about what other skills you've acquired, maybe through your academic, professional, or volunteer work. So take a moment and share your skills in the chat. And this is a great brainstorming session, right? In order for you to be reminded of, what are you learning in your academic program? Or what have you gained as far as work experience or even experience out in your community? Or maybe through professional associations, student organizations, advocacy, absolutely, advocacy skills. And probably many of you have technology skills as well, working with Canvas, for instance, or APA style formatting skills, or SPSS, or other Excel, or other PowerPoint, Zoom. We're all on Zoom right now. So this is definitely a skill everyone has. So really think about which skills. I volunteered with Crisis Line as a phone worker. Yes. Um, excellent. So the experience doesn't have to come from paid work experience. It can be volunteer experience. I collaborated to create a community program. I love that. Collaboration with other practitioners. Yes. I'm a teacher and I volunteer with Meals on Wheels. What a great organization that is. Licensure and accreditation knowledge. Or military veteran, 18 years in 3 disciplines, cybersecurity engineer, audio, video experience. So, yes, even transferable skills from your prior work roles. Those are all important, right? So think about which skills, which experience you want to highlight for your future career in counseling and as a counselor educator in the future as well. Thank you so much for sharing that. And on this slide, we've also included a link to a helpful worksheet for all of you to use to communicate your skills and competencies and actually transform them into strong accomplishment statements for your CV. We'll be talking a little bit more about accomplishment statements. So use this worksheet to add more skills to your CV. And workshops in rural communities. Yes, absolutely. Any workshops that you've delivered are excellent skills, and especially in the area of oral communication. Perfect. All right. So after this reflection, we are now ready to talk about the main components of a CV. These components that you see here are similar to those of a resume, and they include your contact information, a short summary of qualifications. You want to highlight your education, licenses and certifications, and your experience. And a CV often includes additional sections that also reflect your academic and professional activities, achievements, and skills, such as publications and delivering presentations, and many others. So we'll be talking about those additional sections that are common on a CV. And you can include references on a CV if they are requested. So let's review some basic formatting tips because the format of your CV also matters. And again, you can quickly improve your formatting by using skills first templates, right? Because there are those templates available and right away you can have really nice formatting on your document, but it's still important to know what you're looking for. So before we break down the sections of a CV, these are some general tips. You want to use a consistent font size throughout your document. So you don't want to use like Calibri and then Arial and then Garamond, right? And a mixture of different fonts. So consistent font size. Your name can be larger, and that's what we recommend. But 11 to 12 point font is kind of standard out there to use. And also be consistent in the use of the formatting tools such as bold and bullet points, and have margins of 0.7 to 1 inch. Refrain from using pronouns like I, me, my. Instead, start your sentences with strong action verbs. So in your cover letter, it could be more of a narrative. I am strong in these areas, XYZ. But on a CV, you want to avoid the pronouns I, me, my. And then double and triple check your spelling and grammar. And I cannot emphasize this enough, because this is your marketing tool, right? It has to have a clean, professional look. And so look it over, run parts of your CV through Grammarly, have someone else take a look at it, schedule a career advising appointment, and we'll talk about that later as well in this session. But just make sure that it is a clean document. Okay, and
Can
with
I
the,
just say, oh, sorry,
yes,
can I just add something? I
absolutely, Dr. Suarez.
sorry. When we're looking at applications for faculty and the CVs have mistakes in them, we're like, if they're not, this is a document that's presenting you at your best. If you can't do that, then maybe we're looking at someone else. So I'd hate for that to happen to you.
Yes, that's right. You don't want to miss your chance just by
Mhm.
having a few typos on
You
your
want to get in the
CV.
door.
Yes, exactly. And your resume or your CV documents, they're used to either screen you in or screen you out. So they are used to push you through the application process so you can get to that interview. And there, during that interview, you can hopefully present yourself and get that job. So that's the main purpose of a CV, just like a resume as well. So that is a great point, Dr. Suarez. I completely agree. And it is so important. And next, what we're going to do is go over the main sections of a CV. So in this next section, what we're going to do is I'm going to pause for questions after each section that we discuss. So if you have questions about an upcoming section, what I'll ask you to do to wait to submit your questions until we actually get to that specific section. And that way we can stay on track and I can answer as many of your questions as I can during the session here today. At the end, we'll also open it up for some general questions as well. So let's start with the header. So with the header, this is your first section on your CV, and it includes your name and your contact information. And again, notice that the name here is larger and bolded. The header should also include your highest degree earned after your name. So for example, Angela includes her MS degree and highest credential earned if you've earned the credential. So she already earned her LPC, so she put that after her name. Also, she includes her phone number and a professional sounding email address. Okay, so you want to avoid email addresses that don't sound professional. Sometimes I see those. And also with your phone number, just check that you have a professional sounding voice message on the other end in case someone contacts you, right? Employers or recruiters reach out to you. And then listing the mailing address, this is optional. If you're applying for a position online, for instance, I probably leave out the mailing address. But if you're just sending it to someone who you know or have a networking relationship with, you can leave your address. It's up to you. It's optional. And also, some people like to include links to their LinkedIn profile. You can do that as well, or even a link to a career portfolio. All right, so then I also wanted to highlight a few special topics here for doctoral students. If you're a doctoral student, you may have specific questions about how to list your credentials after your name in the header. And these are two important guidelines. You only want to list the academic credential that you have earned after your name. So you should not use amended forms such as candidates to indicate partial completion of your program in your header. Nor should you use ABD, which stands for all but dissertation, because using these designations, they may confuse others, including prospective employers. And so also the amended forms are not officially recognized by Walden. So for additional guidelines, if you really want to get very, very specific in your CV writing, again, visit the Career Planning and Development's CV guide, because we have much more available there. All right, so I'm going to pause here. So any questions about the header? And I'm just going to give it a minute here with the header. So sometimes one question I get from students is, what if I have multiple degrees? What if I have an MBA and then I pursued an MS in clinical mental health counseling? I would list your highest degree earned that's most relevant to your job target in that case. So I sometimes get that question from students. Or if you have many certifications and licensures, just pick one or two that is the highest earned. And then the rest you can list in the education section or after the education section. And we'll look at how to list licenses and certifications today.
So if they have, let's say 2 master's degree, they would do the one that's more appropriate and not mention the other one, or do they mention the other one also?
Yeah, not in the header,
Okay,
but later in the education, and we'll look at
definitely put that. Okay,
section.
sorry,
Definitely.
just
No, that is
clarifying.
a great question, Dr. Suarez. So it's kind of different with the header and the
Mhm.
education section. So that is a really, really good point. Okay, let's talk about the next one. So the next section should be a summary of qualifications section. And this section is really important because especially if you are transitioning into a new area of your field, or you're just starting out as a counselor educator, this section allows you to sum up who you are as a professional and what you have to offer. And you can use bulleted statements, as we see in this example here, or sometimes I see summary of qualifications that are a short paragraph of 3 to 5 sentences, and that's fine too. That's more of a formatting preference. I like the bullet points because they're easier to read and easier for your reader to grasp. But on this slide, we've included 2 summary of qualification sections as examples that you can refer to for ideas. But I'd like to highlight a few points here. As you create your summary section, remember to start your summary by highlighting your various roles and top qualifications. So in the first example, for instance, licensed professional counselor, certified professional counselor, and advocate, right? That is the multiple roles there that are highlighted. While in the second example, the roles are dedicated and engaged professional, volunteer, and community member with broad experience helping diverse clients improve their quality of life. Then after sharing your various roles, you want to continue to summarize your skills, specialty areas, and achievements using additional bullet points. Your summary section can also include knowledge areas and skills you've obtained in your academic program as well, especially if you do not have a lot of work-related experience yet. Use language such as understanding of, or strong academic knowledge in, or background in, to make it clear to the reader that you're referring to knowledge that you've acquired through your academic program. For example, here, understanding of note structures, computer-based clinical documentation, interpretation of counseling assessments, diagnosis and assessments, etc. Right? So it doesn't only have to be professional experience. It can be volunteer experience, things you've done, or things that you've learned in your academic program. And consider listing academic skills that you've gained as a Walden student, if they're relevant, such as experience using Canvas, APA style, formatting, SPSS, if those skills are relevant, again, to your job targets. So again, going back to taking that inventory of your skills that we worked on earlier in the session, really reflect on what are your top skills, what are your top accomplishments and achievements that you really want to convey to your reader or potential employer. All right, so after, let's pause here and let's see if we have any questions about the summary section. And please feel free to submit your questions in the chat. Okay. Oh, that's a great question. You mentioned listing your most relevant degree. However, if you're a teacher that's now going for School of Counseling and both are relevant, would you then do an MA, MS? Typically, we say in the header, highest degree earned. But we're going to talk about the education section next. So I'll show you how to list both of those degrees. So that's a great question.
And then there's another question about when do you substitute a CV for a resume?
Oh, that's a great one. Yes. Okay. So it depends on what the employer is looking for. So if they want a resume, send a 1 to 3 page document. If they want a CV, you can have a document 5 to 8 pages if you have enough information to share, right? If there's a choice, in my opinion, it's better to send a CV because you're, again, showing a more holistic view of who you are as a professional and what you've achieved. Great question. So I want to go back to the prior question about what happens if you have multiple degrees. Education section, this is very important. And this is where you would list your multiple degrees right here. So they would still be included. In the header, you want to simplify it, but in your education section, you want to list all of your degrees that you've earned or are currently pursuing, right? So if it's a degree you're currently pursuing, you could put expected and the year you're expected to graduate. But list your degrees in reverse chronological order with your most recent degree listed first. You also want to bold your degree titles for emphasis, include the institution's name, city, and state. Include that your program is CACREP accredited. That is really, really helpful and helps you stand out. It tells your reader about the quality of your academic program, that it has the program accreditation by the Council for Accreditation of Counseling and Related Educational Programs. Such a long name. CACREP, right? Is the acronym. But that is really important if they've never heard of Walden, especially maybe they're not familiar with Walden, but if you indicate that your program is CACREP accredited, it shows a level of standard, right? And then, as I mentioned, the expected completion date. So any questions about education?
I do real quick.
Go ahead.
as a doctorate student, I'm not exactly sure when my expected graduation date is with dissertation. So is it okay just to write like presently, like present as to like indicate you're still attending, or should you
Mhm.
just do your best guess? Because dissertation.
Yeah. Well, I think you can talk with your student success advisor. I think in general, employers know that, if a doctoral program, there's a lot of uncertainty as far as when you're going to graduate, right? Because you need approvals throughout that process, especially when working on your dissertation. Um, do your best to kind of guesstimate, right? Make an educated informed guess on the year, and you can always adjust it.
Okay,
It
thank
just gives the employer or your reader an understanding. Like if you said expected mm, December 2024, they know you're like at the very end. But if you say expected 2027, they know that you're still kind of at the beginning or middle of your program.
you. Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
Mhm. That's a great question. Thank you for that.
I have a question too about the way that you list out Walden University. You have Minneapolis, Minnesota, then the expected date. So no abbreviations in there. Same thing with BS psychology. You have the state and the
Yeah,
city listed.
the you can have abbreviations for the states like MN, right? For instance, for Minnesota, or OH for Ohio, but be consistent. The main thing is just being consistent with the formatting.
Okay. And then also, if you are a part of an honor society for those, that doesn't go underneath the education, that goes under a different section. Is that correct?
Um, it It could go under a section called affiliations. If you just belong to one honor society, you could also sneak it in here in the education section. It's kind of a preference. But if you belong to several organizations and affiliations, then I would create a separate section. And we'll talk about that one as well. And but thank you for those questions. That's awesome. And there's
We have
one.
another one. I don't know if you saw it, sorry.
Yeah,
Of some
yeah, go ahead, Dr. Suarez.
got this is Billy who got 2 associate degrees after his bachelor. So if you're reversing,
Uh-huh.
so what way would he or she or
Yeah.
they do that?
So I would list it still in reverse chronological order by the date. So the most recent one listed first, even if the associates was after the bachelor's.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
the only other question that I see here.
Okay.
Oh, if I
Perfect.
have a paper published,
Uh-huh.
how and where do I list it?
That's an awesome question. We'll get to that section when we talk about additional sections, and I'll show you.
It's not under education.
Right. Not under education. Exactly. Okay, let's go on. Wow, this session is going by very quickly. So, let's talk about licenses and certifications next. So, with licenses and certifications, you can list them in their own individual sections, as you see here on the slide, or you can combine them into one section called licenses and certifications. It's really a style preference, formatting preference. But you want to include the name of the licensure or certification and the name of the issuing organization. Listing the license or certification number, that is optional. Some people will list it while others prefer not to list it, especially when applying online. So any questions about that? That's kind of a quick section here. If certifications lapse, do we still include them, or only if they are active? Yeah. If they're relevant, I would say you can include them. It shows that at some point you earned that certification. But be clear about which ones are active and which ones are expired or need to be renewed. If they're not active and not relevant, then you can delete them.
Yeah, thank you. I know that I was going to say, like, for example, I have a certification in teaching math in the secondary level.
Yeah,
It doesn't go on my CV anymore because it's not
right.
relevant to any job I've had in the last 20 years.
Yes, exactly. If it's just irrelevant, you can leave it
Mhm.
off. Okay, perfect. So next, let's talk about experience. This is, of course, an important section on both a resume and a CV. And typically, you want to choose a section title that reflects the information in that section. In this example, the section title is Counseling Experience. And list current and past positions in reverse chronological order and go back about 10, 15 years. That is the standard there. And for each position, as you can see here, you can bold your title, include your employer, employer city and state, and the dates of employment. And next, develop strong accomplishment statements or bullet points for each position listed in the experience section. You want to start with strong action verbs, use present tense verbs when describing current experience, and then past tense verbs for past experiences. And also provide specific details, focus on achievements, and include outcomes or results whenever possible. So there are many strong accomplishment statements that you see here on this page. I'm just going to highlight 2 of them. So from the first example, identified at-risk patients to deter psychological and emotional episodes. Consulted with supervisor and treatment team members to develop individual treatment plans. So lots of specific details. And then in the second one, co-facilitated therapy groups of 5 to 10 clients using group therapy techniques and interventions. So including numbers and quantifying, that is also something that we strongly recommend. Like instead of saying co-facilitated therapy groups of clients, you say 5 to 10 clients. So delivered 20 workshops instead of delivered workshops. When you add numbers, it typically improves your accomplishment statements. So hopefully you can see some examples here. So when you are working on your own accomplishment statements, you can refer to them for guidance. And then here are a couple of additional examples of experience sections. And in these 2 examples, the applicant included a mental health and advocacy experience section and a teaching experience section title. So reflect upon how to best organize your experience section based on your own individual experience. You can also subdivide your experience section. Like for instance, if you have counseling experience, but then you also have teaching experience, you can have 2 experience sections with those specific titles. So really reflect on what you want to call your experience section. If you don't have a lot of experience yet, you can simply call that section professional experience and put everything under there. You could do that as well. And then you can have a section called field experience and really highlight your field experience. And then other another section called professional experience or other experience. So any questions about the experience section? We've had so many great questions so far, Dr. Suarez.
I know.
I know. And this
See,
section is probably the one that's most similar to a resume, I would say.
I don't see any new questions. So.
Okay. Let's go on then, because I'd like to really talk about additional sections. And we did have a question come in, would co-teaching and pre-practicum be put here? Yes, in the experience section, definitely. Yes. That's awesome. With strong accomplishment statements that indicate what you did there as you co-taught in the pre-practicum.
And I would say, Jasmine, too, differentiate from what you do as a TA if you do that for your internship, because there's different skills that you're using in each of those areas.
Yes, that's a great point. Yes, and you don't want like the same language even, right? You want to highlight the specific skills that you gain that can help you stand out through those roles. So now that we've discussed the general section, it's time to consider what additional sections to include on your CV. Since your CV is unique to you, you want to take an inventory of your experiences, achievements, and skills to help you determine which sections may be right for you. If you actively were involved in professional associations or are currently involved, maybe you're involved in student organizations or other groups. And I know School of Counseling has many groups to join as well. You can create a professional affiliation section and include your role, organization, and date. So you can see how that's listed there. So an honor society can go there as well, and other affiliations. And hopefully all of you have multiple affiliations, because I know Walden offers so many student organizations, and School of Counseling has all kinds of ways to get involved. I know there's even SOC student activities at mail.waldenu.edu that you can contact to learn more, about what you can do and how you can contribute. And you can even take on leadership roles. So all of that helps you stand out. And if you're actively involved, you just want to make sure that you list everything. If you have experience presenting at professional conferences, include a section for professional presentations. Or if you've published in academic journals, also add a section called publications. And I know one of you mentioned that you were wondering how to list that. So how you would do that is use APA style formatting and list when you want to list formal presentations and publications. So this slide can give you some guidance, but again, refer to APA style formatting. And as you can see under conference presentations and the publication that is listed, but it has such a nice professional look when it's written in APA.
Yeah, so Victoria says that she presented under her maiden name. Should she put the maiden name, married name that she goes by now, or hyphenate? What should she do?
Yeah. I would say if it's a peer-reviewed publication, it should have your maiden name listed. Dr. Suarez, would you say the same?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I would say go by the name that you were going at that time, because if I go to look up the article, I'm going to look up, if I look up Nagel, I'm not going to find it, right?
Right.
And I've seen many CVs where you see cook, and then it changes to Smith, and you know what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but I would still use the name that it was under when it got published, Victoria. And I do want to say too that she mentioned peer-reviewed journal articles, but you can do under publications. If you wrote an article for a newsletter or like Counseling Today, things like that, you could put them in. I used to put all my, at the beginning, I just put, these are the articles that I've done, right? But then now I've separated to peer-reviewed articles and others, because then, because I've done some, kind of newsletter, and then also some journal, peer-reviewed.
Yeah, Dr. Suarez, you make a very important point. Publications can be used as a title, or it implies peer-reviewed. If you have popular publications that are not peer-reviewed, just make sure you make that clear, so you can have publications in parentheses peer-reviewed, and then another section like popular publications.
Yeah.
And those are not peer-reviewed. But especially when applying for positions in academia, it's good to differentiate between which ones are and which ones are not. But also important to list both.
Yeah, now you've got me. I've got to go look and make sure I differentiated it properly.
I know it's easy to forget that, right?
Mhm.
All right. So some additional sections here that I also wanted to mention are listed here. These are others that you may want to consider adding. Honors and awards, committees, professional development, community service, specialized skills such as technology or language skills, many others that you see here. And this can also give you an idea not only of what to list, but also about what to work on. Like, where are your gaps? What can you do to add more sections to your CV while you're a student at Walden, or add more entries under these sections while you're a student at Walden? So what activities can you get engaged in through the School of Counseling, through at Walden at large, in your community, at work if you're currently working, or through professional associations such as the American Counseling Association, or there's the Association for Counselor Education and Supervision. That's another popular one. So think about how to build your professional reputation by engaging in more activities and increasing your marketability. So any questions about these additional sections?
Any advice how to doing that through the university? How to begin doing that through the university?
Yeah, so student organizations, National Society of Leadership and Success, for
Chi
instance.
Sigma Iota,
Yeah, Chi
being
Sigma
biased
Iota.
here because Chi Sigma Iota is the one that is sponsoring these sessions.
Yeah.
But
And
we have a lot of opportunities.
there's also the new one, Counselors for Social Justice, that I
Mhm,
saw. That's
mhm.
really interesting. And the various groups
Yeah, it's a
and
chapter of CSJ. Yep.
yeah. So there's those chapters, and NAMI, or local community organizations. Just there's so many ways to get involved. So really prioritize what you want to work on. And you don't have to work on everything at once, but maybe just thinking about, maybe you haven't taken a leadership role. Maybe take that step, right? And lead a webinar or lead a meeting, or lead a project uh, to get your name out there. So not only being a member, but also being involved and taking on an active role. Perfect. And then, I would also even connect with others, like join Facebook groups, join LinkedIn, really build your network and see if you can collaborate with others. Maybe instead of thinking about how am I going to present at a conference when I maybe don't have enough knowledge yet, partner with another professional, partner with someone else, serve on a panel. Um, so make it easy for yourself. You don't always have to just like rush into things. Take it one step at a time and connect with others to make it easier. All right. Looking at the time here. So we're going to go on to references. So quickly about references, I would only include references if they're requested by the employer. And that is because if you list your references, employer might call your references and your references won't be ready. So only list references after they're requested. But if you decide to include a reference section, list 3 to 5 professional or academic references, and you can see the format here. The address for your reference is optional. And if you're considering including someone as a reference, it is so important to make sure to ask for their permission beforehand, or even to let them know that they might be receiving a call. You don't want your references to be surprised or not know what to say about you.
Yes, I don't want to get a phone call, somebody asking me, and I don't know what job you've applied for or why, why I am being asked to do that.
Yes, exactly. And you can ask references from your former or current supervisors and your instructors or professors at Walden who are familiar with your work. Just know that it is up to the individual whether or not they will provide a reference. I filled out that form. Will we
No,
get?
that's a mistake. I went to,
Oh,
don't worry about it.
that's
I'll
okay.
answer that in a second when you're done, because we've got people waiting for the next session already. So not to
Yeah,
rush you, but
yes. So we're almost done. So thank you for sticking with me. And I just want to start wrapping up with some customization tips. Remember to tailor your document towards your job target. Some organizations use ATSs or applicant tracking systems to filter applicants, and many, I should say, use them. So these systems are programmed to look for keywords on resumes and CVs related to the position. So it is always helpful to review job descriptions for and tailor toward that job and incorporate keywords in your CV that match with your experience. Include a summary section. We talked about that to really highlight your achievements and your brand. Strengthen your accomplishment statements and rearrange the sections of your CV in order of importance, but keep your header, summary, and education sections at the top of the document. And finally, remember that we have many CV tools and samples available to help you continue improving your document. So take advantage of all of these quality career resources that are available to you as a Walden student, because you don't need to start from scratch. If you need additional support, please contact us. Schedule a career advising appointment. We can meet with you over the phone or Zoom and provide feedback on your document. And your faculty also are great resources for that as well. But know that career planning and development, we're here to support you. And we're kind of running out of time for more questions, but we've had so many wonderful questions throughout this session here today. If you have more questions, please reach out to Career Planning and Development. And you can do so also by connecting with us on social media. We're on Facebook and we have a LinkedIn group that you can join. You can read student success stories and related articles on our blog. Subscribe to our YouTube channel with over 100 career skills videos and webinars. Visit our website and explore the School of Counseling Career Hub. This is a one-stop page with
Yep.
career-specific resources.
And I also,
Oh, yes, Dr.
I just want to make sure
Go ahead.
before people leave that I put in the chat a continuation of this session where you're going to get to work on CVs. It's a roundtable being done by Dr. Bradley, and I left the information on how to register for that in the chat as well, so they can continue. I mean, there's so many resources. I say all the time, we have so many resources. But know that if you want to continue, there's register, and the Zoom link will be sent to you.
And is that Central Time or Eastern Time? 4 p.m.
Ooh.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Just
It's
Dr.
Central Time.
Bradley?
Yes, it's Central Time.
It says Central, 4 p.m.
Yeah.
CST.
sorry,
Central.
I'm
That's correct.
sorry.
No
Yeah.
worries.
Sorry, I just had to
And-
look it up.
And one of our doc students, Jasmine Williams, will be facilitating that too.
Yes, that is awesome. I am so happy to hear
you.
that all of you will continue working on your CVs, utilizing our resources. And
Okay.
also, I just want to encourage you to visit the School of Counseling Career Hub. And I'm going to put a link in the chat because the samples are there and there's so much more to help you manage your career and prepare for your next career step. So
There it
so
is.
many tools throughout the university. Thank you for having me. And I will hand it back over to Dr. Suarez for the next.
Yeah, thank you.